What's the most powerful response to betrayal, to disrespect, to someone who thinks they have control over you? Most people think it's confrontation. That's standing up, shouting back, proving a point. That's the way to win. But that's where they're wrong. Because the real power, the kind that leaves people unsettled, questioning everything, it comes from silence. Think about this. Have you ever watched someone expecting a reaction, but they get nothing instead? That pause, long, deliberate, and unshaken, becomes unbearable. The moment you stop giving them what they want, you become untouchable. This is not weakness, it's strategy. Silence is not about avoidance, it's about control. The moment you react, you hand over your power. The moment you stay still, you force them to react instead. And here's the truth. They don't want you to know. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The one who controls the room, that's the person who doesn't need to speak. By the end of this, you won't just understand this. You'll embody it. You'll walk into a room differently. You'll deal with conflict, manipulation, and even betrayal with a mindset that will change the game. Because silence is not the absence of power. It's the purest form of it. Let's talk about something no one ever teaches you. The art of control. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned to react. If someone insults you, you defend yourself. If someone pushes you, you push back. If someone disrespects you, you feel the urge to prove them wrong. And that's exactly how they control you. Because the moment you react, you become predictable. Think about it. Why do manipulators thrive? Why do toxic people always seem to get under your skin? It's because they understand your triggers better than you do. They know what makes you mad, what makes you insecure, what makes you desperate for validation, and they use it, like a fisherman dangling bait in the water. The trap of emotional manipulation. Let me tell you a quick story. A man walks into a high-stakes business meeting. He's younger than the others, less experienced, and his competitors know it. They want to shake him. So right before he speaks, one of them leans back and smirks. "You sure you're ready for this? You look a little nervous." Now what happens next? Most people would react instantly. Laugh it off, try to prove themselves. Say something defensive like, "I'm not nervous at all." But not him. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't even blink. Instead, he just looks at the man and lets the silence hang in the air. The room grows tense. The smirking man shifts in his seat, suddenly uncomfortable. And at that moment, the entire dynamic shifts. That's the power of not reacting. The misconception about confidence. Most people think confidence is about being loud, being bold, always having a response. But real confidence, it's about knowing you don't need to react. A truly powerful person doesn't waste energy trying to prove themselves. They don't explain, they don't over-justify, and they don't play into emotional traps. But here's what they don't tell you. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to face their own insecurities. And when you master the ability to stay composed, especially in moments where people expect a reaction, you gain an advantage they don't even realize you have. Because the person who controls the conversation is never the loudest one. It's the one who dictates the emotional pace. And in the next section, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. This is where everything shifts, where you start to see the hidden mechanics of power, silence, and control. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that most of the conflict in your life isn't caused by what's happening, but by how you react to it? That's right. Your reaction is what gives power to an insult. Your reaction is what fuels an argument. Your reaction is what turns a simple annoyance into an all-consuming frustration. The first major truth: control is an illusion until you take it back. Here's a shocking fact. According to psychological research, 80% of communication is nonverbal. That means people judge you more by what you don't say than by what you do. Think about that. When someone tries to provoke you, what do they expect? They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to get flustered, to raise your voice, to engage. And the moment you do, you're playing their game. But here's what most people never realize. You don't have to play. There's a famous experiment in psychology called the still face experiment. Researchers had parents interact with their babies normally, smiling, cooing, responding to their every little sound. Then suddenly they had the parents go completely still. No reaction, no smile, no acknowledgement. What happened? The babies panicked. They squirmed, cried, waved their arms, desperately trying to get a reaction. But when nothing happened, they became visibly uncomfortable, even distressed. Now let's scale that up to the adult world. When someone insults you, challenges you, tries to provoke you, they expect a reaction. It's what fuels their power. But when you give them nothing, when you hold your ground unshaken, it forces them to confront their own insecurity. Suddenly, they're the ones feeling exposed. Because silence is power. Why people get this wrong? Most people have been conditioned to believe that assertiveness means fighting back, that standing up for yourself means matching energy with energy. But that's a trap. True strength isn't about showing force, it's about showing restraint. A lion doesn't need to roar to prove it's dangerous. It just needs to exist. And the people who truly command respect, they're the ones who know when to stay silent. Now that you understand the power of silence, let's talk about why most people fail to use it effectively. See, it's not enough to simply not react. You have to know how to hold silence the right way, and that's where people go wrong. Let's break down the most common mistakes people make when trying to use silence as power. Mistake #1. The passive silence, acting like a doormat. You've seen this before. Someone gets insulted, humiliated, or challenged in public, and instead of reacting, they shrink. Their shoulders tense, their gaze drops, they avoid eye contact. They think they're being the bigger person, but what they're really doing, they're signaling weakness. Silence only works when it comes from a place of strength. When your posture, energy, and expression show that you are unbothered, unshaken, and in control. When you shrink, you're not being powerful, you're surrendering. And the worst part, people can feel it. Bullies, manipulators, and toxic people thrive on sensing fear. The moment they detect uncertainty in your silence, they push harder. So if you're going to use silence, you must own it. Straighten your posture, hold your gaze, let the silence feel intentional, not fearful. Because when you stand tall in your silence, that's when people start second-guessing themselves. The explosive silence, bottling it up until you snap. Then there's the opposite mistake, staying silent for too long, and then blowing up. You hold it in, you bite your tongue, you pretend like it doesn't bother you, until one day someone says the wrong thing, and suddenly, you explode. And guess what? Now you're the villain. Psychologically, this happens because of something called emotional suppression. Studies show that when you suppress emotions instead of processing them, they don't just disappear, they build up. Your brain stores that unspoken frustration like pressure in a dam, until one day it bursts. And when it does, you lose control. People around you get blindsided. They don't see all the little moments that led up to your explosion. They only see you reacting irrationally. So instead of looking strong, you look unstable. True silence isn't about stuffing emotions down. It's about channeling them into control. Which brings us to the third mistake, the performative silence, trying too hard to win. Now this is the mistake of people who think they're being strategic, but in reality they're just being obvious. This is when someone uses silence as a weapon, but in an unnatural way. You've seen it before. The exaggerated pause before answering. The smug, calculated lack of response meant to frustrate the other person. The dramatic look away, trying to appear dominant. People think they're being mysterious and powerful, but here's the truth. If it looks like you're trying to be powerful, then you're not powerful. Silence works because it's natural, not because it's forced. If someone can tell you're using silence as a strategy, it loses its impact. Real silence is about detachment. It's about not needing to react, not holding back a reaction just to prove a point. It's the difference between a calm, composed presence and a child giving the silent treatment. True silence isn't about winning the moment, it's about making them question themselves. And that leads us to the next section. How do you use silence in a way that is truly unshakable? Would you like me to continue? Silence is powerful, but do you know who else understands its power? Manipulators. The people who control, deceive, and break others down have mastered the art of psychological warfare. And if you don't recognize their tactics, you will become their prey. Let's break down the most dangerous manipulation tactics used against you by toxic individuals, narcissists, and even society itself. Pay close attention. Because once you see these patterns, you can never unsee them. And once you recognize them, you take back control. The guilt trap, making you feel like the bad guy. Ever had someone say, after everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? I guess I'm just a terrible person, huh? If you really cared, you'd do this for me. This is the guilt trap. It's designed to make you question yourself, to force you into defending your own choices instead of standing by them. And here's the scary part. It works. Because humans are wired for social survival. We don't want to be seen as the villain. We don't want to let others down. So manipulators use guilt as a weapon to make you doubt yourself. How do you break free? Recognize the game. When someone twists the situation to make you feel guilty, stop and ask yourself, is this my responsibility? Am I actually wrong? Or do they just want me to feel wrong? When you refuse to play along, the manipulation collapses. And that's exactly why they use the next tactic. The silent treatment, turning your weapon against you. Here's the irony. Manipulators love using silence too, but they use it differently. They don't use silence as a form of strength. They use it as punishment. They withdraw affection. They ignore your presence. They make you feel like you don't exist until you beg for their attention back. It's a brutal psychological tactic because it triggers abandonment fears. It forces you to chase them just to get back to normal. But here's the truth. When someone weaponizes silence against you, you have to be stronger than them. The moment you chase them, you give them power. Instead, mirror their silence. Hold your ground. Show them that their absence does not shake you. And watch what happens. They come back. Every time. Because manipulators can't stand losing control. Gaslighting. Making you question reality. This is the most dangerous manipulation tactic of all. Gaslighting is when someone rewrites reality to make you doubt your own memory, emotions, and experiences. They say things like, I never said that. You're imagining things. You're being too sensitive. That didn't happen. You always twist things around, and over time, you start to believe them. You start second-guessing yourself. You start apologizing for things that weren't even your fault. This is how people lose themselves. So how do you fight back? Trust your own perception. Write things down. Save messages. Keep track of what was actually said. And most importantly, never argue with a gaslighter. They don't care about the truth. They only care about control. Instead, say something like, we remember things differently, and that's okay. Then walk away, because when you stop playing their game, they lose their power. Everything changes now. Up until this point, you've seen how manipulators operate. You've seen the tactics, the games, the lies. But now it's time for something different. It's time to shift the power, because the moment you stop reacting the way they expect, you become untouchable. So let's talk about how you fight back. Not with aggression, not with arguments, but with strategy. This is how you break free. Stop explaining yourself. Manipulators thrive on making you justify, defend, and explain your actions. Why are you acting this way? Why can't you just let it go? You owe me an explanation. No, you don't. Here's the truth. The more you explain, the more they twist your words. They don't want to understand you. They want to control you. So from now on, no more long explanations. No more justifications. Instead, use short final statements. This is my decision. I don't need to explain myself. I've made up my mind. The less you say, the less power they have. Master the power of indifference. Manipulators feed off your emotional reactions. They push your buttons to get a rise out of you. Because when you react, they win. So the most powerful move you can make, indifference. When they try to guilt you, manipulate you, or bait you into an argument, give them nothing. No anger, no sadness, no frustration, just silence. Here's what happens. They panic because they're used to controlling you through emotion. They escalate. They'll try harder to get a reaction. Don't give in. They lose power because without your reaction, they have nothing. This is how you turn silence into strength. Use their tactics against them. They love using manipulation tactics? Fine. Give them a taste of their own game. When they give you the silent treatment, enjoy it. Don't chase them. When they guilt trip you, smile and say, I understand how you feel. But don't give in. When they play the victim, stay calm and reply, I hope things work out for you. Then walk away. The moment they see that their tactics no longer work, they start losing interest. And the best part, they never see it coming. Disappear without warning. Nothing shakes a manipulator more than being ignored. They expect arguments. They expect drama. What they don't expect: for you to vanish. No long conversations, no dramatic exits, no explaining why. Just disappear. Why? Because manipulators don't process words. They process consequences. When you stop engaging, when you remove your attention, they feel it. And that feeling, it terrifies them. Shift the focus back to you. The most important step in fighting back. Stop making them the center of your world. Because the biggest lie they've sold you is this: that you need them, that their approval matters, that their absence should hurt you. It doesn't. The moment you start pouring your energy into yourself, your goals, your growth, your future, they become irrelevant. And nothing is more painful to a manipulator than realizing they've lost their hold on you. The story of reclamation. I want to tell you a story of someone just like you. Her name was Sarah. Sarah spent years in a toxic relationship, constantly manipulated, constantly gaslit, constantly made to feel like she was never enough. Every time she tried to leave, she was guilt-tripped back. Every time she stood up for herself, she was made to feel like the villain. Until one day she did something different. She stopped explaining herself. She stopped reacting. She stopped seeking validation. And instead, she disappeared. No goodbye, no long speech, no emotional closure. She just walked away and never looked back. At first, the manipulator panicked. They called, texted, begged. But Sarah, she was done. She started focusing on herself. She went back to school, started working out, built a life so powerful that by the time her manipulator came crawling back, she didn't even care anymore. And that's when she realized something. Silence wasn't just the best revenge. It was the ultimate freedom. You are stronger than you think. Right now, you might feel trapped. You might feel drained. You might feel like there's no way out. But listen to me. There is. And it starts with you. You are not weak. You are not powerless. You are not at their mercy. You are stronger than you've ever realized. And the moment you decide to take back your power, the game is over. No more reacting. No more explaining. No more giving them control. From now on, you move in silence. Because silence is not weakness. It's your greatest weapon. And when you master it, you become unstoppable. The moment everything changes. The moment where you stop being the person who reacts and become the person who dictates. The moment where silence isn't just revenge, it's rebirth. Now close your eyes. Picture yourself 6 months from now. You wake up, and your mind is quiet. No overthinking, no replaying the past, no waiting for an apology that will never come. They're not in your thoughts, not in your energy, not in your life. You are free, not because they let you go, but because you let them go. Now imagine them, sitting there, scrolling, searching, wondering why they haven't heard from you. They check their messages, nothing. They ask mutual friends, silence. They replay every interaction, trying to figure out when did they lose control. But they'll never know, because the moment they lost you was the moment you stopped needing them, and nothing terrifies them more. This isn't just an idea, it's survival. Let's get real. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about winning or being petty. This is about your life, your peace, your power. Because every second you waste trying to prove yourself to someone who doesn't deserve you is a second stolen from the life you're meant to have. And that ends now. What if you never changed? Think about it. If you don't make this shift, what happens? You stay stuck. You keep reacting. You let them dictate your emotions, your energy, your entire life. And 5 years from now, you look in the mirror and realize they still own a piece of you. Is that what you want? Because I promise you, the moment you stop giving them access, the moment you stop explaining, arguing, hoping, that's the moment you get your life back. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for that. Not them. Not your past self. Not anyone. The final breakthrough. Your next move. Here's the truth. You can listen to this. You can agree with everything I've said. You can nod, feel empowered for a moment, and then do nothing. Or you can decide right now that this is it. That today is the day you stop being a prisoner of your past. That today is the day you choose yourself, not out of spite, not to get back at them, not because you need revenge, but because you are done giving your power away. Because this is your moment, the moment you rise, the moment you become untouchable, the moment you step into the life you were meant to live. And all it takes is one decision, one moment of silence, one step forward. Are you ready? Then let's go. Let's bring this home. Everything we've talked about, every truth, every realization, every moment of clarity, it all leads to this. You have two choices. You can go back to the same patterns, back to reacting, explaining, waiting, or you can step forward into silence, into control, into a life where you are no longer held hostage by someone else's games. And make no mistake, this is a choice. The people who once manipulated you, they're expecting you to fold. They're expecting you to slip back into old habits. Prove them wrong, not with words, not with arguments, not with anger, with silence. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is the final word. What this really means for you, this is bigger than just cutting people off. This is about rewiring your entire mindset. No more proving your worth to people who don't see it. No more justifying yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. No more reacting to bait designed to pull you back in. You are not a puppet. You are not a pawn. You are the one in control now. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. Your challenge. Do it now. Don't just listen to this. Don't just agree with it. Act on it. Think of that one person, the one who plays mind games, the one who drains your energy, the one who keeps you trapped. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped responding? What would happen if you stopped explaining? What would happen if you stopped giving them the power to affect you? It's time to find out, because the moment you go silent, the moment you walk away with no explanation, that's the moment you win, not because you played their game better, but because you stopped playing it at all. Final words. This is your moment. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making them suffer. This is about freedom. And the only thing standing between you and that freedom is the decision you make right now. So take a breath, stand tall, and when they come looking for a reaction, give them nothing, because silence is the best revenge.